Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always, told out of Voice of Radio. So today, we've got a new Beedrill to be talking about. We got Beedrill V. Oh yeah, and also not for nothing, but we've got the first ever Hisuian Voltorb and Hisuian Electrode cards that we can have a little bit of a look at as well. This is actually from Space Juggler over in Japan. Remember, it is a double set Time Gazer and Space Juggler, but all of these cards featured today are just from Space Juggler S10P. P for Pearl or Palkia or whatever you want. And we'll start off with Beedrill here. And just as a quick note, it is not impossible, but it is very unlikely that we will be seeing a Beedrill V Star, purely because it's a good Pokemon V, and although we can find exceptions, it is rare for Pokemon to reveal a Pokemon V without a V Star or a V Max, if it has a V-Star or V-Max. But the fact that it's good on its own, and I really do like it, and the fact that they didn't show the V-Star at the same time, makes me think that although not impossible, it is very improbable that we'll be getting a V-Star here. And I should mention, all of our translations come from the lovely Antoine Boulet, one of our very favourites. So we start off with 210 HP, which is honestly fairly standard for a Pokemon V, retreat cost of 1, which is sad because we've seen Beedrill with free retreat in the past, and a weakness of fire, which at the moment's not terribly relevant. And then we've got 1 attack here, 1 grass energy, Twin Needle, it's Beedrill at the end of the day, 40 damage, flip 2 coins, this attack does 40 damage times the number of heads. I actually kind of like this. Now, my liking it is predicated on double heads, and I'll be honest with you, that's not always going to be that likely, but do remember, this is a basic Pokemon single energy. So your opponent has a turn, they pass to you, and off you go. And the fact of the matter is that you can actually do some good damage here pretty quickly. Like, if you hit double heads, and you've always got Glimwood Tangle to try and increase your chances, I say always until we rotate, but if you can flip double heads here, that's 80 damage, single energy, turn 1. That's not bad. If your opponent has some kind of support Pokemon in the active, like a Sobble, he goes down. Or if your opponent's got something like a Galarian Zigzagoon, which remember is weak to grass, that will go down with a single heads, that'll be 80, and you will be good to go. And incidentally, that will be one of the more relevant ones here. If you can get yourself, just 1 heads against a Galarian Zigzagoon, which is still very much out there, you will get the KO. You can even start mucking about with Choice Belt here, and do 110 damage, turn 1 going second. And if you end up against an Umbreon, and I know Umbreon's not seeing as much play as it was, but it's still out there, it's still seeing a bit of play, that is enough to get a 1-hit KO on an Umbreon V. You will need the Choice Belt and the double heads, it's a lot to ask, but this is a backup attack, this is a bonus attack. For a bonus attack, not the reason you're playing the card, this ain't too bad at all. And the idea that your opponent can pass the turn with a single 80 HP or less Pokemon active, and you've got a 25% chance of just winning the game there and then, that's not too bad, ladies and gentlemen. That's not too bad. But the reason we like it is for the second attack, and what we've got here is Swarming Sting. 2 grass, 1 colourless energy. This attack does 50 damage for each Beedrill V you have in play to one of your opponent's Pokemon. Put simply, if you've got 4 Beedrill in play, that's 200 damage to any of your opponent's Pokemon, active or benched. And bearing in mind your support Pokemon, things like Crobat or Luminium, which admittedly are seeing a bit less play now than they used to, and that's a little bit sad, but those Pokemon will just go down in one go. And it doesn't even need to be classic support Pokemon, something like a Genesect, which is kind of a it's kind of a support Pokemon and an attacker. 200 is enough to KO a Genesect. Yes, it has resistance, and you know the deal by now, ladies and gentlemen. You don't apply weakness and resistance to bench Pokemon. That should be a given at this stage. So its resistance isn't going to help it. So actually, right now, you can take out some super relevant Pokemon, and remember that Beedrill V is a basic Pokemon. So we're using stuff like Quick Ball or maybe Battle VIP Pass, and if you are trying to swarm Beedrill super quickly, Battle VIP Pass. It's a card which I never took terribly seriously, but we've seen it popping up in more and more decks, especially things like, Genesect decks. And actually, it's a card I think we need to start taking a lot more seriously than we used to. So yeah, there are ways to swarm this Beedrill out. And I'm sorry, I would not forgive myself if I didn't just briefly mention, we've seen this on Beedrill before. Don't forget the Beedrill of Evolutions had this attack. Now it was an actual stage 2 for 2 energy, 40 damage. For each Beedrill in play to one of your opponent's Pokemon. The hype at the time was that with only 3 Beedrill in play, you could KO a bench Shaman. But it was stage 2. It never really worked, unfortunately. It was too awkward. And incidentally, Beedrill as a Pokemon, and I love Beedrill in the TCG because there is a real history of it's super awkward, but it's probably not going to work. Right now, the single strike Beedrill from Chilling Reign, we've seen that already on stream this weekend from the regional championships in Salt Lake City doing pretty well. Instant KO for a single energy on any Pokemon with special energy attached. And then, of course, what you want to be doing there is mucking about with Mustard so you can actually just play that straight away without having to worry about the whole it's technically a stage 2 thing. And we're here with Beedrill like we are so often. Can we actually make it work? Because the potential here is clear. 200 damage anywhere on the field. Yes, I know Manaphy's back, so your opponent might be playing some bench barrier, but it's not seeing a huge amount of play at the moment. A lot of the decks that hit the bench are taking a bit of a step back right now. Manaphy could be a pain, but then you can still hit the active if need be. So, it's there. It's an option. Can we actually make Beedrill work? Well, the fact that it's a basic Pokemon is great, and the fact that we are having to swarm them really doesn't matter, because they're basics. Actually, while we're here, I do need to mention there was a Beedrill Swarm deck which literally won the World Championships. Steven Silvestro piloted it, and it was a proper swarming Beedrill deck. That did 30 damage for each Beedrill, only to the active. Times have changed, ladies and gentlemen. That deck literally won Worlds. So how are we getting the energy onto Beedrill? And the answer probably is, and I'm sorry, it's probably Arceus. And I know that's a little bit, yeah, we've seen this all before, and you're right. At the moment, the metagame is absolutely teeming of a million different variants of Arceus. But I think if you're going to make this work, Arceus is probably the way you're going to have to go. Yes, we do still have Rillaboom in the format, but that's a stage 2 and that's super awkward. And yes, we've got Cherim, but remember, Cherim only accelerates to Pokemon that don't have a rule box, and Beedrill V as a Pokemon V absolutely has a rule box. So we're probably using Arceus here. So we've got the usual thing that we've seen, well, a lot if you've been playing the game lately. Trinity Charge for a double turbo energy. We'll just get free energy out. Or Trinity Nova, once you get up to a V-Star and add a third energy, does 200. And gets the energy out. And like we've seen with all these Arceus variants, this will actually get going pretty quickly. And if your opponent isn't playing a Manaphy, then at that stage you are legitimately doing a rather redonkulous amount of damage, and you are taking out Pokemon on the bench pretty easily. But don't forget, the damage here works out nicely. Arceus V-Star hits for 200 damage, and then accelerates the energy to Beedrill. At which point, even if your opponent retreats to the bench, Beedrill will then go ahead and do 200 damage, even if you only got 3 Beedrill out. That adds up to 350, and the most HP we see at the moment is really stuff like Eternatus with 340. So as soon as you've used Arceus to accelerate the energy, Beedrill will finish off even the biggest, most intimidating Pokemon VMAX for 3 prizes, even if you've only got 3 Beedrill out. And I do think this legitimately has a chance at being a top-tier Arceus variant, because we know Arceus on its own is really good. Anything you can KO with Arceus, brilliant. Anything you can't, in comes Beedrill, and you're not relying on drawing into things like boss's orders, because you are just smashing the bench. And if your opponent ever benches a 200 HP or less Pokemon, it will be kind of hilarious. And don't forget, we can all see, we see Arceus played with Inteleon lines as well. It's not exactly something we've never seen. So is it really going to be that difficult to put grass energy in and for Beedrill V? And then at that point, I mean, the big Pokemon V-Star we see at the moment, like Arceus, tend to have 280. So that's 4 quick shooting plus 1 Beedrill attack. 2 Inteleon out, that's 2 turns of quick shooting plus the 1 Beedrill attack. This can add up very, very quickly. I'm in love with this new Beedrill. And I'm not a kind of guy that tends to take Arceus decks to tournaments. I could see myself taking Arceus Beedrill to a tournament. Now, I did promise you that we had the first ever Hisuian Electrode and Hisuian Voltorb to be talking about, and we totally do. And really, the focus here is on the Voltorb, not the Electrode. It's not the single energy 10 damage, nobody cares, and it's not the 50 HP because that is exceptionally low. But for 0 energy, remember that nowadays, with Hisuian Pokemon, we have now seen the return of free attacks. It's the blank energy symbol thing that you see on the card right now. And for 0 energy, choose up to 2 of your bench Pokemon, and for each of them, search your deck for a basic energy and attach it to that Pokemon. But only on your first turn, and only if you go second. And the thing is, this is great when it works. If you go first, gutted. This is not going to work. If you go second, but you can't find it, can't get it in the active, can't draw into it, whatever, this is absolutely rubbish. But it's a free attack. Now, if we look at Beedrill, Beedrill needs free energy. So you attach for your turn to Beedrill. You don't need to attach to Hisuian Voltorb because it's a free attack. Use Hisuian Voltorb to get 1 energy onto each of 2 Beedrill. And then next turn you attack for the turn and Beedrill's ready to go. Yes, you're only accelerating 1 energy to each, but because you're not using energy on Hisuian Voltorb, attach to Beedrill, use Voltorb's attack, attach to Beedrill, and you're off and rolling. Oh yeah, and you've actually got an energy on a second Beedrill while you're at it. It can work, but I don't see why I'd play this over Arceus. Now, what I do think is, I'm putting this in my deck as a one-off. Because Arceus, I need double turbo energy, and I can only play 4 of them. Hisuian Voltorb I need to get it into the active. So why would you not play this as a one-off just in case? Just because you can. And then some games it's going to work. I want to be using Arceus to accelerate free energy to the same Beedrill, get it rolling. But then again, I could use this to set up my first Arceus, which also needs free energy, and then that Arceus sets up my first Beedrill, and then we're going from there. My point is, I don't think you can rely on this, because you can only ever use it once and all of that, and because you can't use it if you go first, but as a bonus, I love it. I don't love Electrode. 0 energy, 50 damage sounds good, but it's at least your second turn. You got a stage 1, 50 damage isn't very much. No. 0 energy, draw 3 cards? I mean, look, here's what I can tell you about this. I think if I'm playing a 1 of Voltorb, and I think I probably would be, I would consider a 1 of Electrode, because it's 0 energy, and once I've used Voltorb, you might as well evolve it so it's got more HP. And then if I'm really having a bad time in the mid to late game, I can put this up and draw 3 cards, and I don't need to put any energy on it. I don't think it's particularly good, personally, but I do think if you're playing Voltorb anyway, maybe as a one-off for emergencies. Voltorb I do like as a one-off. I don't think I like it more than I like Arceus. I still think Arceus is the way to go most of the time. But using it if you can't get Arceus and a double turbo, or using it as a way to get your Arceus going as a V-Star without putting it in harm's way, yeah. Just do bear in mind you are probably giving up a prize when you use it. But then again, if you give up a prize, and then the rest of your board is just Arceus and Beedrill, well, your opponent's still got to take 3 KOs to win the game, so actually giving up that prize does nothing at all. So there we have it. The Voltorb line is a nice bonus, but I love this new Beedrill. And this might be one of these awkward cards I get really excited about and it never ends up being any good. And if that's the case, well, I'm sorry, but this is how I really think about it. I'm giving this Beedrill between 4 and 5 Wassies. We don't give half Wassies. That would be barbaric. I think we all know that Arceus can work. And Arceus is great on its own. And what you're really looking for is a partner that uses 3 or fewer energy to do the kind of things that Arceus can't, and hitting 200 to the bench, meaning that you can take these big KOs without having to rely on gusting, that is something Arceus can't do. But I want to know what you think, so let me know in the comment section, would you? Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.